It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Welcome back, everybody. I wanted to talk about a video that was suggested by one of you guys in a Discord community. So shout out to Domichi for this one. It's ShinyCatMae's which DBD killers use their perks best. So I'm just going to be going over my mains in particular. The full video is in the description. But first we're going to start with Ghostface, because that is going to be, I think, the most well known, I guess, or the, well, not well known, what's the word for it? I'm the most informed on this character. So I will say that Ghostface being probably one of the most informed, I would say, with this character. I can say from personal experience with each perk that it really depends on a few different factors. So first and foremost, we have something like, we'll start with I'm all ears, because I think that's one of the least useful for Ghostface. And it says, obviously, when they fast vault, you get aura reading. And now my issue with, obviously, with Ghostface, mainly with this perk in particular, is he doesn't necessarily use it that effectively because of the mere fact that if you're already looking at them to stalk in the first place, or you're already in a chase with them, 9 times out of 10, like, the aura reading is not going to matter that much. Because one, if you're stalking them, then you're already looking at them, so you already know their location. Aura reading is not going to do anything. Or if you're trying to get into chase with the survivor, still not that great, obviously, because, you know, this character doesn't have a chase power, so you're gonna take a lot of extra time that you don't have in the match. You're better off just either leaving them for later, so you can catch them when they're just out in the open somewhere, or you're just gonna have to, like, try to get into chase and break a few pallets and then leave. But you can't really confirm anything or really get much information that you wouldn't have already had. Now, that's already, like, you know, one of the 3 for Ghostface's perks, and that's, you know, gonna tie into a bigger thing that I have when it comes down to the perk balancing, but we'll get into that in a second. The other one is like furtive chase, which I think is a smidge better because you'll get 10% haste, get undetectable for 18 seconds. But if it's used by itself, so you don't have anything to, like, any obsession switching perks, you don't get a lot of value because of the fact that you have to wait until they unhook the obsession, and the only way to actually get the obsession on the hook is to have to down him in the first place. So that's not something you can always control, and therefore that means that depending on, almost, I would say, luck, it would determine if you're able to get more furtive value or less furtive value depending on who it is that you're going to go after, and the map, and the blah blah blah, like everything that has to fall into place just to get that, like, little bit of minuscule amount of value. Now, when it comes to thrilling, of course, I would say it's like I would say out of the 3, it's the most consistent, because obviously every down you pick up, it's blocking the gens that are not being repaired. Now, obviously, that's the sort of fine print. It blocks that are not being repaired, so, you know, you're not really getting any slowdown at all. It's sort of like barbecue, except it blocks the gens instead of showing you the aura reading, which, mind you, not that crazy. It's better on high mobility characters because you can hook really fast and then zoom on over. Like, it's really good on Billy, I think, nowadays. Back then, not that good at all. But I would say with the recent, like, change, well, I wouldn't say recent, but with the changes that the perk received, it's a lot better than it was before, which is good. But still, my biggest issue with just these perks alone is that it's very niche and very specific with how you use these perks, and they're not that great. Now, I want to go over Freddy's perks. Freddy is another one that's a little bit of a funny one. He has Blood Warden, which needs no introduction. You already know what Blood Warden does. If you need to know, you could just, you know, go ahead and read it on the video. But Blood Warden in general, super situational, kind of horrible. In most situations, it's very luck based. Fire Up, one of my favorite perks in the game. You just get an additional stacking, like, boost to, like, picking up and breaking stuff, and nice, you know what I mean, vaulting as well. It's just nice to have. And Remember Me is also pretty good for pretty much end game. You can also slow down the gate opening, which desperately needs to be slowed down anyway. So overall, Freddy is pretty good with his perks. Now, do they work on him per se? A lot less than I would have liked, honestly. But it's still pretty good. He has 2 add-ons that really help out quite a bit with the game plan of the end game. Because he has like that add-on that they changed where he can teleport to the gate. So if you pair it with another perk, which we're not going to go into pairings and synergies because obviously that's its own discussion, but specifically just talking about if the perks work on the character, then I would say Remember Me works quite well, and Blood Warden can work if they're asleep when they enter the gate, right? Because if you have that add-on, then you might have time to pick up. And if that's the case, then you might be able to block them in for an extra 60 seconds on top of like the 5 or maybe even hopefully 10, but it's probably just 5 seconds where that blocks it for those sleep, the asleep survivors. Now the problem is the add-on requires them to be asleep, which a lot of players are just going to go to those clocks and remove it. They usually never stay asleep. So it's just not that great. And it's just like, man, it's touching on a few things. Because notice these examples that I'm using here, because these are like the characters that I know the most about. Notice that with all of these perks that these killers have, all of them are either not very helpful for the character, or if they do have things that can be helpful for the character, it doesn't really synergize very well. Like in Freddy's case, it synergizes slightly, where it's like, if you have the right situation at the right exact time with the right setup and the right thing at this exact moment, then you'll get value. And it's like, okay, that's fine, I guess. And then you'll have like Ghostface, for example, who has an add-on that can provide the I'm all ears effect. But then it's like, why would you equip that when it's not very useful, right? Like, what is the purpose of equipping it? Because aura reading in general on Ghostface is not that really necessary, because number one, he's a game sense focused character. So, you know, that obviously means what? Map awareness, understanding how many resources are available to them in their area, knowing where they are, knowing where they're going in order to get value, because the character already moves very slow. The character already requires you to have that kind of knowledge to perform well, on top of gen speed, so you don't have a lot of time to be dealing with the setting up, right? So wasting a slot on aura reading on both your either perk slot when you only have 4 and an add-on slot where you only have 2, and even those need to be you need to make sure those are good enough, because the character already is very weak. And in Freddy's case, he kind of falls into that category similarly, because once again, his add-ons are good if you pick the right ones. But if you're rocking the add-on for like the black box, and you're rocking this the class photo and all that stuff, it's like you're giving away potential for other add-ons that could just do more, like give you more value, because you're trying to hope that once they open that gate, they're asleep, which in most cases people are just simply not going to do. If they're experienced enough, they're just not going to do that. They're just going to either, you know, wake up as soon as they can. If they assume you have endgame, if you haven't shown any perks throughout the match, they're probably smart enough to assume that you have endgame. They'll more than likely be trying to wake up as soon as possible and trying to be able to either maybe 99 the gate or whatever have you. Like, they're gonna find ways to counter what your game plan is on that character very easily. It's like these strategies are not like hard to do. Like, it's not like it's like you need to be an expert to understand, okay, get rid of the totems, okay, just 99 the gate so that we don't open it and then cause Blood Warden to activate, blah blah blah, if somebody goes down. You know what I mean? Those are things that are just the way that it is. And I noticed that like that's like the difference that we see with a lot of players who play killer, is like people say, oh well, I use totems and it works really well, or I use these perks and it works really well, it works every time, I have all this value, and Oblivious also works on Ghostface and all this kind of stuff. But then when you look at me using the character, my experience will be different. If I stream it, you guys will see it. Like, I can equip those perks and I will not get the same effect. I will not get the same value. I will not get the same like enemies that they have faced or whatever have you. I just won't get that. And so I think it's because of that, like that gap between like how much they played this character versus how much I played my character, MMR level, time played, time zone, whatever it may be, that causes that big disconnect. And I think that's why there's a lot of like disagreements and discourse along with DVD as a whole, but I also think that that's why there is a big perk issue, because a lot of these perks are also just really weak and have these really specific niche situations, as we're seeing with Ghostface, Freddy, and now we're looking at Pyramid Head in this case. Deathbound, right? Let's look at that one first. It says that you give them Oblivious if they heal, which is fine, but it says they will gain Oblivious until they lose a health state if they are 4 meters away from the person they healed, which is fine, I guess. Then we have Force Penance, which is a great perk. I mean, but it's not horrible. Takes protection hit. They're broken for 80 seconds. That's perfectly fine. And then we have Trail of Torment here, which is basically you gain undetectable, but it highlights the gen yellow for the survivors. So if they leave it there, you'll have undetectable for the whole time it regresses. And then if it gets touched or whatever and it stops regressing, then it's a 30-second cooldown. Stuff like that. Now, do these perks, I would say, at least in this case, do these perks work well on Pyramid Head? I would say, yeah, for the most part. Because the character has a lot of like Shift W meta going against him. Like, that's his biggest counter. Having Oblivious, having Trail, pretty good. I wouldn't say like they're the most useful things in the world and they're gonna like change the game by any means, but like it's mainly the status effects that they provide. Like Oblivious or Undetectable would help him because he's so freaking slow. He doesn't have mobility, and he gets even slower when he drags his knife through the ground. So it's also just a thing. But that still ties right back into what I was saying earlier. Now, what I wanted to also cover was Chucky, because you guys know I'm a P100 Chucky player. And I wanted to cover my thoughts on his perks and see if they work on him as well, just to briefly get that out the way. So batteries included is also one of my favorite perks in the game. Gives you 5% haste and a 60-meter radius around the completed gens. It's not bad. Friends to the End, which I know a lot of people will probably say the perk is like really good. I don't think it's that amazing on most characters, and even Chucky, I think it's even worse on Chucky than a good chunk of the roster. But I'll get to that in one moment. And then Hex 2 Can Play is just a fun perk that I wish we had more of, I would say, when it comes to playing killer. What Hex 2 Can Play is if you've been stunned twice or blinded, which it doesn't say that in the text, but that's also a thing. So if you get blinded twice or stunned twice with a pallet, whatever it may be, or is it just stunned twice? Can't remember. Anyway, no, I don't use it. Regardless, I like the perk. It says that if they stun or blind you, it blinds the survivors for 1.5 seconds. Now, me personally, I think it should be increased to like 3 seconds or 1 or 2 seconds. Like, I think 1.5 is way too slow. I think that being able to inflict like blindness to the survivors in return, I think is hilarious. I think that we should have more things like that in the game. You know what I mean? See, kind of like a see how you like it kind of thing. And I think it'd be funny. I think it would add a lot of value to playing killer. And it, it helps them get a taste of their own medicine in that kind of sense. Now, when it comes to Friends, right? Friends to the End, I think, is one of the more weaker sides of the Expose and Exhaustion. Not Exhaustion, but the Obsession-focused perks. Mainly because people will say it's really good. But like I've said many a times, my use of the perk and who I go up against is probably just different than when the people that are saying that their perks are really good. So when I've used Friends to the End, a lot of the time, like they're either across the map or they're hiding somewhere, or they keep their distance. They realize that the perk is active, they realize that they're exposed, and they just hide. They go into a locker, they go somewhere else, they keep as much distance as possible, they have sprint bursts, so they can boost their way to the other side of the map. And 9 times out of 10, a character that can use Expose is usually an M1 killer, and is not really able to get value from it. And I'm pretty sure the Expose doesn't last very long. And considering that Vigil is meta at this current patch, the exhaustions and other status effects are removed like at least 66% faster than normal. So of course, by the time I get over there, say with any character, like in this case Chucky, for example, he will not get value from it. He's a 4.4 or 110% movement speed killer, and most of his power comes really from his hidey ho and slice and dice, right? Which is not an M1, so you're still not getting value from it. And you can say maybe the info, but I mean, like, the info really isn't that crazy, because a lot of the time you would have known they were there anyway if you just paid attention to the match. In that sense, you know, I don't really see it entirely as like a training wheels perk, but you know, you get the idea. And the fact of the matter is that once again, like, we're tying it back into the main point of the video, which is like talking about the idea that a lot of these perks that we have here are not good, is my point. Like, they have these very niche, very specific uses, and then I look at that and I say, damn, like, notice like the distinction between a survivor perk and a killer perk, and it's like night and day, which makes sense, right? They're two completely different sides. But my point is the ease of use. Why is it that a majority of these perks that we can cover in this video, or have covered in this video, either are super niche or require very specific conditions for it to be used, yet we can look at a survivor perk and it will just be active at all times, just is there whenever they need it, and its value comes from the fact that how powerful the effect is. So something like Deja Vu will always give you aura rating and always give you 6% repair speed. That is stackable with other perks that also increase repair speeds. That's insane, right? Mind you, we looked at some of these perks here, and these are very specific. Oh, they have to be the obsession. If they're not the obsession, then this. Or if they are the obsession, then this. And it's like, so that means that you got to chase a very specific survivor through a very specific path in order to get the value, which is like, oh, you get 10 seconds of this. And it's like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, even like what Hex 2 can play, it's a Hex, right? So you still run the risk of it being destroyed, and you still have to get stunned twice for it to even do anything. If it was on Survivor, they would just be like, hey, you click once and then you blind the killer 3 times. It's like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think the perk balancing is really that great in this game, and this is mainly, you know, what I wanted to talk about within, you know, this video here. But I want to hear what you guys think about the perk balancing, because that's just my issue, you know, overall with it. Let me know in the comment section. Hit the like, hit the sub, man. Become a member on YouTube or Patreon, or even subbing on Twitch. I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, let's go ahead and read off these wonderful members. We got Patreon, Crow Vader. All my YouTube members, Brando, Evil Blade, Cap Courteous, WTF You're Not J-Lo, Evil Peach, Hargan Falcon, Dole Whip, Noxus, Zero Mocker, Jack, Christian, and Crow Vader. Really appreciate you guys supporting, man. And if you also subbed on Twitch, just know that you got love coming your way too. Appreciate you guys, man.